Hello and welcome to a video on the Planet Zach YouTube channel. Welcome to What the Heck is a Sonic Game? In this episode I'm going to talk about Sonic Frontiers, the way it comes when you first download it. I know the game's going to get some DLC coming up, but I figured it would be a good idea to talk about the main game before any of that comes out. I'm going to try my best to keep this spoiler free. I won't be giving away any major story beats, and I will do my best to avoid making any major gameplay spoilers, I guess. I am going to talk about the gameplay to some degree, so if you consider that a spoiler, I would click off this video. But for the most part, I'm just going to give my general thoughts on how the game plays, and whether I think the story is good, and that sort of thing, but I'm not going to give any major details away. So like the trailers and promotional materials suggested, we are adventuring across these islands with Sonic saving his friends. Each island has a unique design. Not all the islands have unique environments, but they are all relatively distinct from each other, and they have features that are either natural as well as features that are remnants of a past civilization. And that's generally the theme of the game, what's going on here. So when you get into the gameplay, Sonic has base moves, and then there are moves you can learn via a skill tree. Defeating enemies helps you earn skill points, which you can exchange for new moves. The combat system works well enough in my opinion, but if I had any gripes, a few of the moves I found hard to pull off with the button inputs that you were supposed to use to get them. There's a training simulator that you get loaded into every time you go through a loading screen, and that can be a good place to practice your moves, but even then, sometimes I would have a bit of difficulty pulling some of them off. The good news is there is a one skill tree effect that will auto combo for certain moves, which I found useful. As far as Sonic's base moves that he has before he even gets any of these skills, he has his homing attack, which is pretty standard for 3D Sonic games, and he has the drop dash, no spin dash though, just the drop dash, and then he has a stomp slash bounce move. It's kind of like there's an impact there, but you also bounce a little bit when you perform it. I think it's a good move. And then you can boost, and in this game, boosting doesn't require you to collect anything. It's something you can do whenever you feel like you need to, but there is a limit to how long you can boost. His moves are slightly different inside the cyberspace stages. He can't use any of his skill combos in those, but there really isn't a reason to need to, so it's not that big of a deal. Overall, I would say the moveset and combo system are pretty solid. I know people have made mods where they alter it a little bit. I don't understand why you would. There's no real reason to do that, in my opinion. If I had any kind of gripe about any of this, it would be that, like in Sonic Unleashed, they have mapped the homing attack to a separate button instead of it being something that you press the jump button a second time to perform, which takes some getting used to for me. But I think they mainly did that maybe because the drop dash is linked to the jump button. Like, it's kind of like it was in the other games it's appeared in. You press the jump button while in the air to perform the drop dash, and the drop dash is pretty good at getting you up places that are elevated. There are a lot of slippery surfaces in some places where you can't find footing, but you still have collision and you're moving up a little bit, and that's kind of wonky. But other than that, I would say the physics of the game are pretty good, and I like the moveset. So what then do you do on these islands? So there is some interaction with some of the ancient ruins and such, but mainly what you're going to be doing the most of is going through these gauntlets of rails, springs, boosters, etc. to collect these things called memory tokens, which you use to help your friends. And when you collect enough of them, you can take them to a location where the person they belong to is waiting, and it will typically unlock a cutscene. So in a lot of regards, it's very similar to Sonic Speed Simulator. It's a little bit less loops made of the environment and more loops made of like metal and stuff because they're rails and such, which I think is a bit of a shame. I wish we could have seen more of that looping rock formations and such, especially since one of the Tales Tube episodes kind of hinted at the fact that those are natural formations that occur on Sonic's planet. And I think that's kind of why even the human-made stuff involves loops and such, which is kind of cool. That's a cool lore detail, I think. But there aren't really a lot of naturally formed loops on these islands. They're more realistic environments than normal, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. And the gauntlets are plenty of fun without dealing with loops made of the environment, but I just think that detail would have been nice. But a lot of the time, you're just going to be collecting these tokens, and then you can unlock story details, which I think is pretty great. I did play on normal mode. I didn't play on hard mode because the title screen basically said, hey, if you want like a balance of gameplay and story, then pick this option. I was like, well, I want the juicy lore details, so I'm going to pick this option. And I must say, there are a lot of really cool lore bits to uncover in this game. I won't spoil anything, but there's a lot of really cool stuff and a lot of really cool ways that you can unlock lore details. So then one other thing involved with these gauntlets collecting the tokens, sometimes when you bring the tokens to the person you're helping out, you will unlock a little mini challenge, and that's kind of a different type of gameplay in order to earn normally a Chaos Emerald or something, and you play that challenge and it kind of contributes to the story a little bit, but it's mostly one of those things where it didn't need to be here, but I'm not really complaining that it is here. It's just kind of a break from the action in a sense. Another thing you can do while exploring the island is solve these mini challenges that are scattered about the island, and this is actually how you unlock the map. Different parts of the map will become visible when you complete challenges, and also the challenges connect to each other. So if you complete a challenge and then go off and complete another challenge, they might be connected by a rail, which will appear once you've completed the second challenge. So it makes navigation across the islands a bit easier, which is nice. I'm not sure how I feel about the map situation. I kind of feel like I wish it were not unlocked by this method and that it was just kind of a travel situation. But other than that, the puzzles are relatively inoffensive. There was one of the ball and hoop puzzles that I just could not get to work, and I finally got it, and I was like, why is this so hard? I don't know why I struggled with it so much, but most of the challenges are relatively manageable. So then there's also enemies around the islands to defeat. There's a lot of variety in the enemies. So there's basic enemies which get progressively stronger as you go to each island. And then there's larger enemies which are typically unique to each island and each have their own attack strategy. And you will see like a little banner with their name appear when you enter close enough that the game wants you to fight them. But you can also easily walk away from the fight if you're not in the mood. But I would recommend trying to defeat each one of them at least once because they're pretty fun and they don't take that much time to defeat most of the time, especially if you're more powerful. But anyways, the last thing that I want to talk about as far as what's available to do on the island is the portals to cyberspace, the portal gates which are scattered around. If you defeat certain enemies or complete certain other tasks, you will get the keys to unlock these portals, and they contain cyberspace stages, which are essentially this game's special stages. And they come in one of four themes. There's Green Hill, Chemical Plant, Sky Sanctuary, and then this city theme, which isn't really 100% true to any of the city stages. It's kind of an amalgamation of ideas from those stages. And there are gun tech in these, which is interesting. But a far cry from Forces, the enemies in these stages are actually relatively congruent with the enemies we've seen in these level themes before, instead of just those soulless egg pawns that had no real character or design to them from Forces. I like Forces, but that was one of the few things that I didn't care for was the enemy design in that game. But this game does a much better job, I think, as far as enemy design is concerned. But then there's also a set piece, which is the Death Egg robot from Forces, which I did like that design. But I digress. The cyberspace stages in this game, many of them are based on previously used stages that appeared in previous games. There's a lot of ones that try to replicate stages from Sonic Adventure 2. There's a few from Sonic Unleashed. I'm sure there are other games involved too. Those were the main ones that I was able to pinpoint. There were a lot of them where I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be based on a previous game's stages, but overall I think they're pretty neat. I know a lot of people complained about them when we started to notice this when they were revealing play footage, but I personally think that being able to play through a Sonic Adventure 2 stage in this game is pretty cool, and they made it so that they only had to work with the 4 different level themings, so they had assets that they could use and didn't have to worry about creating new assets for the different themes, which I think probably helped with development time and everything. So overall, it might seem lazy, but I personally thought it was pretty cool. You'll have different missions to complete with each of these stages. They're all the 4 same missions. There's going to be one where you just have to reach the goal, one where you have to reach the goal with a certain number of rings, one where you have to collect all of the red star rings, and then one where you have to reach the goal within a certain time to achieve S rank, which can be difficult on some of these. But for the most part, I would say that remember that boosting is going to be your fastest. An upper path might seem like it should be faster, but sometimes a path where you can boost the whole way is faster. And you do actually go faster when you're going over booster panels when you are boosting. So even if you're boosting, the dash panels or booster panels will make you even faster. So just keep those things in mind, and hopefully you'll be able to get S rank on everything. I'm not sure I actually have played all of these through, because there were considerably more of them in the arcade mode that appeared when I finished than I ever found on the islands. But I did find all of the big fishing spot portals, which are the other thing you can get to from these portal gates. And that's fun. They have fish for you to catch, and there's information about each one. Some of the things you can catch are not fish, and there's information about those too. It's kind of like the Critterpedia in Animal Crossing, or like a combination of that with the museum. And there's even some lore details you can unlock from this minigame if you know what you're doing, so that's pretty cool. anyways, that about covers most of the things that you can do in the game. You face off against a larger enemy at the end of each island, and then you complete the story through, and that's pretty cool. So overall, I would say this is a good game. And as far as using old level themes and old level design for special stages, I think that's pretty cool. I wish they would do that in more games, because like I actually have the thoughts of doing a video talking about special stages, because they have always been the bane of my existence. I cannot stand special stages that have nothing to do with the gameplay of the game. It's like, why are you doing this? I mean, I've seen it done where there are challenge areas that are just harder versions of the gameplay that you can play through. Like the Sonic Boom Fire and Ice game did that. Like there were challenge areas hidden in some stages where it's just a gauntlet where things are the same type of gameplay as the normal stages, but a little bit harder, and that was fun. So I think things like this are definitely my preference in terms of what we want for special stages, but I could be alone in that sentiment. But at any rate, good game overall, fun ideas, executed relatively well, and good lore bits to tantalize us with. So I think I'm going to call it here. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.